Hello, welcome to Leadership Live with Anton Gunn, and I have a question for you this morning. Are you steering your team towards success? Now, what do I mean steering them towards success? This is what I call my mid-first quarter check-in. When I say mid-first quarter, we're literally halfway through the first quarter of the year. And so as a good leader, my question is, are you still steering your team towards success? Are you still steering yourself towards success? Those are the operative questions for the day that I want to unpack. And let me tell you why I want to unpack it. Before this year started, you set out your goals. You had laid out what you want your team to achieve, what the plan was for the year, how you hope to hit these benchmarks and metrics in order to be able to say at the end of the year, we are successful. You did all of that prior to the beginning of the year. Well, when the year started, stuff started to happen. I'm almost certain that in this year of 2025, there was something that you laid out in your plans that you got hit with a left hook. Now, what do I mean got hit with a left hook? Change is hard. Change is dramatic. Change can have an impact. You can have the best laid plans, but as Mike Tyson always says, everybody got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And this year, I know plenty of people who have been punched in the mouth. Sometimes it could be something as simple as you get a new leader in your organization who changes the entire direction, even after you made plans for the previous year. Or maybe it's the economic circumstances that has impacted your plan. Or maybe it's the outside forces of politics and government and everything that's going on in DC. It has disrupted your mindset, your thinking. It's done something to change you or knock you off course of your plan. Sometimes personally, it could be something. I know some leaders who literally had the best made plans for 2025, but then they physically got hit with something in their bodies that kept them off their feet, that kept them at home. Could be constant migraines or back pain or shoulder pain. Or maybe you just had a simple mistake of stepping off the curb in the wrong way and you broke an ankle. Now you can't travel. So you might have had these plans, but you got hit with some adversity. And I'm telling you right now that the best leaders, the leaders who help their teams to thrive, the leaders who help their teams to win, are the leaders who are willing to do check-ins, mid-year check-ins, mid-quarter check-ins, mid-week check-ins to assess how things are going to make sure that you get to success. So today's question and conversation is around, are you steering your team towards success? Or did you get hit by something monumental and now you're reeling and you don't know if what we set out to do at the beginning of the year is still relevant, if it still makes sense, if it's still a good place for us to go, and is my team ready to get there? And then finally, the most important question is, are you the leader to get them there? So you might have been yesterday's leader, but when the environment changes, when the circumstances change, when you get hit with that level of adversity, you need to ask the question, am I still the leader to lead them? Am I the right person to help them during this time? So today's conversation is around, how are you doing the assessment, the analysis to make sure that those goals, those things that you laid out at the beginning of the year or at the end of last year, whatever it is you said you wanted to accomplish in these 12 months, have you assessed, are we still on track? Because the reason why it's important to assess whether you're still on track so early in the year, because the smallest degree of drift can take you way off course. The smallest degree of drift can take you way off course. Let me give you an example. I live on the East Coast. The largest northern city on the East Coast is Boston, Massachusetts. That's the farthest north. The largest city on the East Coast to the south is Miami, Florida. Miami and Boston are very far apart. Very far apart. I mean, like so far, if you don't even know what a map looks like, I'm going to safely explain to you that these two cities, geographically, emotionally, mentally, distance-wise, are not even in the same place. They're not. But let's imagine you and I are on an airplane, and this airplane is in Los Angeles, California. And the airplane is getting ready to take off, and it's going to fly from LA to Boston. So the pilot sets the navigation and the direction of the plane to go to Boston. And that was his plan before the plane took off. He set the plan to go to Boston. But somewhere along the lines, as soon as we take off, there was some immediate weather that happened right outside of LA County. Maybe it's the smoke from the fires. Maybe it's a bad thunderstorm. Maybe it's El Nino. Maybe it's something. And so he had to adjust and change course just a little bit. And let's say he changed course 2 degrees to the south. Not a lot, but just 2 degrees to the south. If that pilot moves past that storm and doesn't recalibrate to make sure to see if they're still going to Boston, and he just continues to fly 2 degrees to the south, he's not going to end up in Boston. He's not even going to end up in Connecticut. He's not even going to end up in New York City. He's not going to end up in Philadelphia. He's not going to end up in Washington, D.C. He is going to end up somewhere further south on that long flight. Maybe Savannah, maybe Charleston, South Carolina, but it definitely won't be the goal of where he was trying to go. So what I'm saying to you is you may have hit some storms as your plane took off for your team this year. You just hit some storms, and you're setting the direction to go around those storms. So now that you're on the other side of the storm through the first half of the first quarter of the year, here are 4 things that you need to do to assess what is going on with your team, and are you still headed to your successful destination? So number 1, you need to review your goals. The question that you need to ask, are these goals still relevant? Because again, you had every intention in the world to set a goal towards something, right? But when you get hit with change, adversity, challenge, new business model, new leadership, anything could change things. And so the question is, are your goals still relevant? Is that a still worthwhile approach to what you're trying to achieve this year? So here are 3 questions that you need to ask your team as you assess the goals. And when I say ask your team, it's great to pull your team into this conversation. It is really good to pull them in. So the first question is, team, are we still making progress? So if the end goal was to get to where we wanted to be, are we still making progress, or did that detour, did that distraction, did that disruption take us off from making progress? Simple question. Number 2, the second question is, are these goals still aligned with our mission? See, you as a leader need to have a mission-driven team, a mission-driven focus, and it should be focused on helping you to accomplish the mission. All goals should be. But the question you have to ask is, are these goals still aligned to our mission? Is this going to help us to achieve our end of the day purpose? You need to ask that question. And here's the third question you need to ask as you assess where you are this quarter is, do we need to pivot? Do we need to change to something totally different? Because you might have set out a goal to do one thing, but that adversity is such a big obstacle that you need to pivot. And you can't be afraid to pivot, because sometimes that might be the only option, and most importantly, the best option to deal with what is coming at you. So in this mid-year check-in, or when I say mid-quarter check-in, not mid-year, mid-quarter check-in of Q1, the question is, are you still making progress? Is these goals still aligned with your mission and purpose? And number 3, do you need to pivot? So you got to review your goals, and you should review them with your team. And we all know what goals should be. Some people call them SMART goals. I'm going to call them smarter goals, because I want you to have goals that are smarter than just smart. So that means, are they specific? Are they measurable? Are they achievable? Are they relevant? That's the SMART. Okay. But then you want to add the TER. Are your goals time bound? Are they exciting to you? Because a lot of people give themselves goals that are drudges that they don't want to deal with, and that is not going to help you to achieve them. So you want to make sure your goals are exciting, or at least the outcome is exciting. Okay. And then the last one is, you want to make sure that your goals are results focused. If you don't have results focused goals, then they might feel good, but the question is, what's the result? Is it more money? Is it more success? Is it more impact? Is it a bigger difference? Is it going to make something out of nothing? You want to make sure it's results focused. So what I'm telling you, to answer the question, are you steering your team towards success? You need to review your goals to make sure they're still relevant. That's the first thing. There's the second thing that you need to do as a leader, is you need to assess your team's morale and their engagement. And then the reason why I say assess your team's morale and engagement, because when you get hit with adversity, your team is going to get hit with that adversity. And they may feel very bad about what's happening right now. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. I know way too many people who every day this year of 2025 are getting up, turning on the news, and they become paralyzed by what they hear about and see happening in Washington, D.C. They're paralyzed by the anxiety, the anger, the bitterness, the disruptive nature to what President Trump is doing with these executive orders. Not that they totally oppose all of them, but it's just such a disruption that they're concerned about the safety and security of our nation. Now, you may not care about any of that, but I just want you to know that you have people on your team who are worried. It may not be all of them. It may just be one person. But I'm telling you right now, given what's going on in the world, you have people in your organization who are either angry, they're frustrated, they're concerned, they're fearful, all of the above, about what's happening in the massive disruption to payment systems, to government agencies, to services that their family members or their children may be taking advantage of or using in some kind of way. So that could affect their morale. That could affect their engagement with you, because they're not trying to pay attention to you, because they got one eye over here watching the television. They got one eye watching what's going on the news. They're not all in. And the reason why it's important for you as a leader to assess this right now, because if you don't have your team clicking on all cylinders, if everybody's not on the same page, if they're not dialed in, if you aren't helping them to get through their mental, emotional challenges as a leader, you won't achieve your successes. You won't hit those goals. You just won't. So I encourage you with your team to do the following: is to bring them all in for a meeting and then ask the simple question, what's going well? Let them lay out for you in the plan that we laid out, the systems that we put into place, the things that we said we're going to do. What's going well right now? In this mid first quarter check-in, what's going well? What's going well? That's the question you want to ask. And then here's the second question you want to ask your team. Is anybody stuck right now? Is anybody overwhelmed? The reason why you want to ask the question, are they stuck or are they overwhelmed? Because this is going to create the space for them to share with you that they might be overwhelmed. Maybe they're not overwhelmed with outside what's going on in DC or what's going on in the world stuff, but they might be overwhelmed with the number of projects that you gave or the multiple deadlines that you gave. Or maybe you put too many goals together for Q1, that you got 15 big rocks when you probably only need 5 big rocks. They might be overwhelmed. So you want to ask the question, are you stuck or are you overwhelmed? That's the second question you need to ask to your team. And then here's the third question to test their morale and their engagement is you need to ask the question, what can I do to support you? Is there anything I can do to support you? How can I support you better? I just gave you 3 ways to ask that question. Because the second thing you need to do is after you assess your goals and check in on your goals, you need to make sure your team has good morale and that they're fully engaged. And that last question is really about you being engaged on what they need you to be engaged on. Is what can I do to support you? What can I do to help you? Is there anything I can be doing to reduce the overwhelm? Is there anything I can do to help you to get unstuck? That's the second thing you need to do to assess and whether you're steering your team towards success. Okay. Now, here's the third thing. This is about you and not about your team. Number 3. And that is you need to evaluate yourself. When I say evaluate yourself, where are you on the success journey? Are you distracted? Are you overwhelmed by everything that's going on in the news? Are you showing up as a distraction at work? Are you equipped to lead your team right now? And I know you might think you are, but just because you were the leader that could lead the team last year doesn't mean you can lead the team through these current changes and this current adversity. You may not be ready for it. So this is the opportunity to assess and evaluate yourself. Am I still the right leader to lead this team? Is a question that you could ask yourself. Am I growing myself in real time? Am I reading? Am I answering my team's questions? Am I showing them that I care about them? Am I helping my team to be successful? And am I doing enough every single day to continue to earn the trust of my team? Those are questions that you need to be asking yourself right now. Am I ready for the moment? Or is the moment too big for me? All good questions that every leader needs to ask themselves. That's number 3. Now, have you answered the first 3 questions? I'm going to give you number 4, but I'm going to repeat 1, 2, and 3 and then lean into number 4. So the first thing you need to do to make sure your team is going towards success and you're steering them as the captain of the ship towards success is that you need to review your goals to make sure that they're still relevant. Asking some basic questions about, are you making progress? Are you still aligned with the mission? And number 1, do I need to pivot? That's it. Review your goals. Number 2, you need to assess your team morale and their level of engagement. And number 3, you need to evaluate yourself as a leader. And once you get these 3 done, the 4th thing you need to do is you need to build out a communication strategy with your team to make sure that they know where you're going. You got to communicate the path forward to your team. So if you needed to recalibrate, once you recalibrate it, let them know where we're going. If you need to make sure that everybody is engaged and ready to go, you need to make sure they know where you're going. If you've clearly identified that you're the leader to take them where you need to go, then you need to communicate the path forward to your team. Don't assume that they're going to figure it out. They're going to still stay stuck on the last plan until you recalibrate and communicate, here are the things that we're doing going forward. Here's the places that we're moving going forward. It's okay to recalibrate. It's okay to shift. Matter of fact, the best leaders, when they get punched in the mouth, as Mike Tyson said, they change up the plan. It's okay to change plans. Changing plans is a smart thing to do. If you keep pushing your head against a brick wall, you're not going to make much progress. But if you need to back up, regroup, get a grip, and come equipped with some rope to climb over the wall, nobody's going to be mad at you for doing that. If you need to back up, regroup, and get a grip and come equipped, and you need to go around the wall, nobody's going to be mad at you with that. If you need to go get some tools to be able to drill through the wall, nobody's going to be mad at you at that. So if a brick wall shows up in the name of change, in the name of adversity, in the name of disruption, in the name of all chaos, total chaos and mass confusion, then you need to be the leader to make sure you're steering your team towards success by literally reviewing those goals, evaluating your team's morale. Number 3, evaluating yourself as a leader, and then recalibrating and communicating a path forward. So I hope this is helpful to you as a leader and how you think about leading your team, even how you think about doing these things for yourself. Review your personal goals. Evaluate your morale of getting these things done. Make sure you're doing what you need to do to get better, and then communicate the new plan to those in your life who are helping you to achieve it. I want to thank you for watching this episode of Leadership Live with Anton Gunn. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you next week.